You're listening to Tapestry, a podcast by a music lover for music lovers. I'm your host, Kelly. Music is a thread that weaves a course throughout our lives. Join me on a journey to unravel that thread and bring you the stories behind what inspires musicians to create. Side note, Tapestry is an uncensored podcast. Don't say I didn't warn you. Welcome to episode 44 of Tapestry, where today my guests are two online pals of mine, Forristall and Jonah Robertson, who from two different time zones complete the so-called comedic progressive rock duo Empire Bathtub. In addition to focusing on their ridiculous and hilarious debut album Looney Moons, we also chat about their upcoming collaborations with other online musicians, stylistic changes within, how technology has eased the barrier to entry for said collaborations, why music inspires them, and some good old-fashioned life regrets. You're listening to the 11th track off their album Looney Moons, Run, Run, Runs. Get this started. So, Jonah and Steven, I'm just saying on record, this is going to be so difficult for me to not call you by your screen names, but anyway, I guess I could just call you Empire Bathtub 1 and 2. But, yeah, guys, thank you for joining me. The easiest way to start this off is just to introduce yourselves, so that everybody can hear whose voice is whose. And then usually I like to ask you kind of what each of your musical histories are, sort of how you got started doing your thing. So go for it.
Sure. So I'm Steven Forristall, and so I started playing bass first when I was in middle school. We started a band, and so they're like, oh, we need a bass player. And so that's like when you don't play an instrument. I feel like that's always the instrument that somebody picks for you to play. So started playing that, and then started playing guitar shortly after that, and played until I was about 21, and then kind of took a break and then picked it up again about 2 years ago. And then I guess when I started working on Looney Moons, it was kind of after I'd started, shaking the cobwebs off and everything like that, and decided that I wanted to make an album. And then shortly after that, started that, Jonah hopped on. Almost said beans.
I know, this is going to be very difficult.
So yeah, and you were over 50% of the way done by the time I joined, weren't you?
Yeah, I had a lot of the instruments done for a lot of the songs, but I'd say about like probably about 50%. That sounds about right.
Yeah. So I'm Jonah Robertson. I'm the other half of Empire Bathtub. So, or I guess I'm like 10% of Empire Bathtub. So I've been singing and just doing general vocal work for about 13 years, I would say. Doing harsh vocals for about 9 of them. I got started in a church band way back in the day, actually. Okay. And then did like musical theater and that sort of thing. But this was my first real foray into like properly published music, if you will. So I was incredibly excited when Steven invited me to be a part of this, and it was loads of fun. I did not expect the amount of insanity that this man put into this.
The timing of it too was perfect, because when we both write for the Progressive Subway, so like we I mentioned it to him, and he was like, hey, if you need any vocal work or anything, let me know. And I was just having a problem. I was like, how am I going to do these like narrations when I'm already like doing the other characters and stuff and not have it just sound weird? And then I was like, perfect. This is perfect. It's just what I needed.
Because nobody likes an album where you're just talking to yourself the entire time.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's why you recruited him. Well, I guess I want to just give a little primer here, because I mean, you guys are obviously familiar with the podcast, but anyone out there listening who is like, why are we talking about screen names? It's just because I know you guys from the Discord group that I've so fondly mentioned in some of my other episodes, the Images and Words Discord group, where a bunch of adult prog nerds hang out and talk to each other and then occasionally create amazing albums together, which is what brought this whole thing to light. So that's why it's difficult to call you by your real names, because I'm just used to like exclusively chatting with you with stupid emojis. But yeah, I think it actually speaks a lot to the changing nature of how music is made nowadays, because you're both individuals who have your own musical upbringing and history and whatever, and to think that the right circumstances brought you together to create this amazing thing is kind of awesome. So I don't know the story of Empire Bathtub and why it's called that and sort of how the project came to be. So could you guys tell me a little bit more about that, and then we can probably go in depth a little bit more on your latest, well, really first album, Looney Moons.
Yeah. So for Empire Bathtub, I wish there was a better story behind it, but there isn't. So
Okay.
I was thinking about band names and stuff like that, and I didn't want to really release under my name because I wanted to have like a band name. So I was just thinking, and it took like about a month, and I couldn't come up with anything. And so I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna go to a random word generator, and then I did, and it came up with Empire Bathtub, and that made me laugh really hard. So I was like, you know what, that's gonna be it.
Wow. I thought there might be some profound thing.
Nope, there's not.
It is absolute nonsense. It means nothing.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I was like, well, that's
Okay.
perfect. That fits what we're doing right now. So.
Well, I mean, it's kind of butterfly effect in that regard, but I guess it also sort of fits because I guess how I would describe you guys is kind of progressive comedic metal, I guess. And
Sure.
yeah, that the sort of the nonsensical aspect of it all makes sense. But yet, I appreciate the fact that with your album, you have crafted a clearly like funny and stupid storyline, but it all fits and it all makes sense. So, Steven, were you? Well, yeah, you wrote most of the material, right?
Yeah. So I wrote a lot of it, and then like we were saying earlier, it was about halfway done, and I knew kind of the general. A lot of the stuff had to be kind of connected when Jonah came on, and so like we kind of, once he got on, we kind of bounce ideas off of each other and stuff like that. But it was the general outline of kind of how I wanted to tell the story was there.
Yeah, and I think I'm trying to remember. I think I only really had a hand in the writing aspect with the prologue and like bits and pieces of some of the other narration and the harsh stuff. And then I can't remember if it was my idea or yours to leave the epilogue like lyricless, but I remember I was part of that discussion as well. But like the rest of 100% of the music writing, but like the rest of the lyric writing was all Steven.
So, all right. I'm not sure if I should ask what is the storyline as much as you'd want to tell, or should I ask how in the hell did you come up with it? Because I mean, it's pretty great. It's pretty great. It's out there.
So before I actually started recording, I'd recorded an album, but I went to a studio and recorded it. So this was actually the first time I was recording an album at home. And so when I was first, learning, how to record from home and getting used to the, everything involved, like the DAW and the audio interface and, EQing and everything like that. And I was playing around. So I made this first song and it sounded like spacey Tool. And I was like, you know what? I like Tool and I like spacey stuff. So maybe I should do an album like that. And then that idea kind of grew. Like I had like, just sat down and knocked out like 2 songs pretty quickly. And I was like, I guess I got to go for this now. It's coming. It's, it's flowing out so easily. And so, that kind of one thing led to another, and then just kind of sat down and finished the story out.
So the music came before the part where you are the last man on Earth who travels to another planet to try to save humanity with a badly programmed robot in the year 2069, and then you end up getting captured by some crazy space ruler, and then somehow you escape because he had to take a shit. Is that what I'm understanding? Is that basically what your album is?
Well, when you put it like that,
yeah.
In a nutshell, yeah, that's like, you know, that's like when you pick up a movie and you turn it over and you read the back. That's what it would say.
In a galaxy far, far away. No, I guess yeah. I sort of ruined that because, you know, I like to hear the creatives sort of describe their own work in their own words. So between the two of you guys, how would you describe Empire Bathtub, and how would you describe what you've created?
Oh, Lord.
Because it is kind of like toilet humor metal, but like better than what I just made it sound like.
So, I mean, to give, you know, kind of like a, you know, I guess deeper kind of answer, you know, I really got into, you know, Trollhagen and Cheetos Magazine and bands like that like to have fun kind of fairly recent, like within the last couple of years. And I don't know, that really resonated with me. And kind of writing in the past, you know, trying to write stuff that wasn't story based or anything like that kind of was a little bit more difficult. And so I was like, you know, I'm just going to have fun with it. And that made it a whole lot easier because I was just able to, you know, have fun with it. And I was like trying to see how ridiculous I can make a song. And so it came out, I think, better than it would have if I was trying to do something else.
Mm-hmm. Jonah, was that hard for you to approach at first? Only because I know you like to listen to, you know, this really deep, gloomy doom metal a lot of the time. So how did you end up on an album about asshole robots?
So it was really weird for me at first because and I've had this discussion with a few people on the server in the past, so I don't know if you've caught it, but I do not like comedy, generally speaking.
No fun.
If I'm going to
allowed.
It's not even that. I just like, if I'm going to approach something that I think is funny, it's going to be stand up or something like that. I don't like comedy shows, albums, movies, etc. It's just not my thing. So I came into this originally and Steven was talking about it and I was like, okay, like, I guess, you know, I'm excited to do the vocals because that part's fun as hell, but like, we'll see with the subject matter. Right. But I had a blast with this thing. It is funny as hell. A lot of the stuff that we did, that Steven did mostly with like the timing of like the gags throughout the album, right? That kills me every single time.
Right. I was listening to it yesterday and I just thought about how like your contributions to the album are all the narrations and stuff, but like the curse words to word ratio is extremely high with your part. It's just mostly you getting pissed at TARS, and I will ask you more about TARS in a second. But yeah, it's like I'm walking around my house making dinner, listening to Looney Moons, and it's just like you're like, shit, fuck, just like all the time, and you know, I know there's some people out there who are like, oh, profanity, you know, unless profanity like serves the song, I don't like it or whatever. But I think that's the beauty of it, is that it's the gags, it's the timing, it's the setup. It just works. So, all right, let me ask about TARS. When you're explaining TARS, I wanted to keep in mind, like, was there any kind of cultural significance to TARS? And, you know, does it have, does the concept of TARS have any cultural relativity right now? Or am I asking too profound questions for a comedy metal album?
I'd like to say yes. I know where you're going with this. I'd like to say yes, but if I'm being honest, no. It was just it kind of came out in that first song that I was like, when I was going through and trying to learn, you know, how to record from home. And I just started messing around with stuff and then gone on like the robotic setting and started having fun with it. And I was like, you know what? Gotta have this in there. And and then again, it just kind of came into the story writing process. But yeah, I mean, it was, a lot of this was kind of something I was surprised that kind of came together. And and as we were going through it, like talking to Beans, I was like, there were so many times where both of us were like, I mean, I can't believe we're making an album about this.
Yeah.
Yeah, we definitely had to stop and kind of double take the stuff we were working on many times throughout this. Especially, dude, the voice for Tars was a fucking nightmare.
And this is
Yes.
Tars being the troll-ass robot safety unit.
The troll-ass robot safety unit, yes.
He's such a stupid shit. He's annoying. He's perfectly placed in the storyline to make you hate him.
You know what the funniest thing about it is that, like, you know, normal day to day, like I really don't cuss that much, but like I guess I just had to get something out on this album because like both of us, it's just like that's like 50% of what we're saying, I feel like.
Well, even like the like not the direct profanity, but like anytime we mention the fuck king, right? Like, yeah, it's those little things slip in there too.
It's true. Yeah, I mean, maybe this was just like a repressed side of both of your like 12-year-old boyhood that was just like needing to come out, and then once you had amassed enough musical skills, you could finally put it together, perhaps.
Yeah.
I guess on a not really more serious note, but just conceptually, I wanted to talk to you guys about this album mostly because I think it begs the question, like, okay, what is a real musician? You know, I think a lot of people, with the availability of technology and just the internet allowing us to collaborate, I think a lot of people still kind of gatekeep themselves. Like they, you know, all three of us in the server, we see it and read it all the time. People are like, oh, well, I'm really not, you know, I'm not really a vocalist. I'm not really a guitarist. And it's like, what's that standard that you set for yourself? And I guess, like, what are your opinions on that sort of paradox?
Oh yeah, no, all the time, like when we were just talking about this kind of the other day, like when and something that we'll kind of get to later, but we were talking with some of the other musicians on, you know, in this group chat, and we were like, you know, I don't feel like I'm really a musician. I just feel like I'm, you know, an imposter sitting here. Like I feel like somebody's gonna, like, you know, figure me out or something like that. I'm not actually that good as they think I am or something. But yeah, I mean, it's, and especially like going to, like, if you get like to Metal Archives, like online collabs, they like instantly like won't put on there. Like Slice of Cake isn't on there, and Odyssey to the West is like,
oh really,
one of the best albums, and then they won't put them on there because they said that, you know, they aren't, I don't remember the reason they came up with, some ridiculous reason, but you know, it's just
is there criteria like they all have to have it recorded in the same room or something, or
I don't know. I have no idea.
There's definitely like a stigma about online collaborations though in music, right? Like there's this approach to it that as soon as you guys are, you know, as soon as you're not all in the same general vicinity, somehow the validity of your music just drops by like 50%. Mm-hmm. Even if the quality, like in the case of Slice the Cake, right? It's a, you know, phenomenal piece of music, but there's definitely that stigma attached to artists like that. And it's especially in our current day and age, like you were saying, the changing landscape of music creation and music production, I think it's complete nonsense at this point.
Yeah.
Right. Because, you know, Steven, you're in Texas, and Jonah, you're in Florida, and I'm here in Pittsburgh, and it's like, you know, you essentially made this album just by piecemealing stuff together and trading ideas back and forth. And I don't know, if you ask me, I think that's sort of the way a lot of things are going. Not to mention, like, the world we're living in right now at this very moment in time, you know, musicians can't really practice together even if they wanted to. So you guys are really just leading the charge.
Yeah, I mean, it was funny because, like, you know, I was, like I mentioned before, it was like the first time I was recording from home, and then mixing the fact doing like a long distance collaboration, I was like, okay, you know, I want this to work, but I don't know how this is gonna work. And then it was so easy, you know, we would bounce ideas back off of each other and send each other musical pieces and stuff like that, and then go from there. I mean, it was a lot. I didn't really know what to expect when I was getting into it, but it was a lot, a lot easier than I thought I was going to be.
What you're nodding in agreement, Jonah?
Yeah. So I mean, I have attempted a couple online collaborations in the past, I guess.
With me, and I backed out.
That was one of them. Yeah.
Yes.
And it's every single one was such a shit show because no one knows how to take leadership, right? No one knows how to really be like the lead songwriter. And I feel like most bands have a lead songwriter of some sort or another, whoever it is. It's sure as hell not me. And this is the first time I have worked with another musician, with Steven, where I felt like I was working with someone that understood the vague nonsense I spit at him and was able to turn it into music. Because I'll come in and I'll be like, yeah, so this song, right? There's gonna be like a riff at 3 minutes, and then I want to end it with like bells, and he'll turn it into a whole fucking song. and it's great because I have very little musical background besides some musical theater and some choir, so I don't really understand how to construct music, right? That's not my skill set. So working with someone who gets that side of things a hell of a lot more than me, whether he'll admit it or not, has been wonderful because it means I can just go nuts with the vocals, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm sure I'm playing into the stigma of the vocalist that doesn't know what the hell they're doing as far as the side of things goes. But it's been wonderful.
I think the reason why it worked so well is because I mean he didn't mention this, but I'll do the same thing back to him. Like I'll spit an idea that won't make much sense. I'll be like, you know what I'm trying to say? Like, have it with this emotion, but like say it this way and stuff like that. And so like I think that it worked as we just are kind of on that same wavelength with explaining stuff like that in our own weird way.
Well, that kind of unspeakable and like indescribable kind of glue that holds musical projects together, it's really hard to pin down, but it seems like any successful musical collaboration has that glue, and yeah, it's hard to pin down. So I'm glad that whatever that magical substance is that you guys share it. But I guess that's a good place to segue then into the new single you have coming out as Empire Bathtub, but then you have a whole entire second project in the rafters. So let's talk about the single first. And you're laughing already, so I was gonna ask, how does it differ from your album Looney Moons? But I'm wondering if that laugh is like, it's even crazier, or it's nothing like it at all. So tell me about that.
We're just super excited about it. So it's gonna be a cover, and it's gonna be "Kiss from a Rose" by Seal, and we're gonna do a cover of that song, and it's also gonna have featuring Bigger Ron on keyboard.
Okay.
And AKA Tuck.
Yeah.
From the server.
Mr. And
yes, and so we're really excited about it. We've already kind of started on it, and we're gonna blend all of our different styles together and do a cover of "Kiss from a Rose" because apparently everybody secretly deep down loves Seal. and I pitched the idea to Jonah. I was like, so I had this random idea that I really, really want to do, and I want to see if you're on board with it. And I was like, I want to do a cover, like an Empire Bathtub version of "Kiss from a Rose." And he was like, oh, I'm totally on. Yes, let's do it. And then he was like, we should get Tuck on. I was like, all right, let me reach out to Tuck. And then I messaged him. I was like, would you be interested in doing a cover of "Kiss from a Rose"? And he was like, oh, I'm in. I'm so in. He was like immediately on.
I just want to say that I think I even mentioned it that day. Like that song, for some reason, I was obsessed with that song when I was like
it's
7.
Such a good song.
Yeah, it is. It's like timeless.
It's a really good song.
I know my mom will listen to this episode. Love you, Mom. But she can probably confirm the fact that this one time at my aunt's house, like for a holiday or something, I was like dancing around the dinner table singing that song. It's such a good song, but that is not what I was expecting at all. Not even in the same galaxy. No pun
I don't
intended.
think anyone is really expecting a Seal cover from us at this point in our musical career or anything. I'm excited to see how it comes out, but I'm also a little bit scared because we're really bathtubing it. So there's that's a
that's a verb.
No, I love it.
There's going to be there's actually going to be clean vocals from me on this one. And
Okay.
Steven's taking lead still for the most part. We're kind of switching back and forth. But there's also going to be like some harsh vocals from me and that sort of thing going on. So we're doing it in the style of the band, and I can't wait for us to just completely ruin a Seal song. It's going to be great.
I just imagined gang choir vocals for some reason, like getting everyone to do the ba-da-da-da-da, just that, but like real soft, and just collect like thousands of recordings of people doing that and then layer it. That's my contribution that you didn't ask for. But
I'm totally down.
okay.
That's the outro right there.
Yes. Yes. Wow. Okay, I don't even know where to go from here, because I just cannot believe that when I asked what's your new single gonna be, you answered with a cover of "Kiss by a Rose" by Seal. So let's move on then to the other project that you two are planning. How did that start to develop, and kind of what is it?
So I'll take lead on this one, because I think, I mean, obviously all of this is a collaboration between me and Steven, but it started right after Moons dropped, right? And he was like, all right, give me like a couple weeks, just to take a break. And I was immediately like, okay, but I had this idea. And he was like, okay, but what if we did this? And it just started going. Like maybe it was like a couple days after Moons dropped.
It was before Looney Moons dropped. I remember that. It was because it was after we had finished, like it was after like the final master was done. We pretty much started on that right away.
Yeah. So I guess in a nutshell, what it is it's a separate project. We decided to go that route because both we're including a couple new musicians, which is exciting. Both of whom you know, actually, Kelly. And the style is going to be completely different. The only thing that's similar is that Steven and I are involved. So.
And there's a story too.
And it is another concept piece. There is narration, so I guess there are your similarities. But it's going to be I'm awful at genre classifying my own music, right? I cannot do it. But it's going to be leaning more towards the kind of doomy, sludgy sort of side.
Okay.
It's very heavy compared to Moons. There's still going to be a mixture of clean vocals from myself and Steven, but I'm taking more of a lead on this one. We'll see how that goes. Lots and lots and lots of harshes, much more than Moons has. And the story is horror themed, I would say, more than anything else. So it's such a drastic difference from everything Moons was that we felt like there would just be too much stylistic whiplash, right? If we went from this goofy comedic sci-fi album to this album that's about death and loss and is heavy as hell, and it's way too much cognitive dissonance between the two, right?
Yeah, it would definitely, if you're going to expect like Looney Moons 2, it would have given you a shock.
It would really rock the tub.
Yeah,
Okay.
So to speak. So
you should make your project name like the polar opposites of those two words. So it could be like Democratic Bidet or something. I don't know.
So we unfortunately already have a project name, so we can't go that route.
Fine.
So because this is our first proper reveal here. The new project's going to be called The House of Leaves. It is
that's
named
appropriately scary.
Yeah, it's actually we took the name. It's in reference to a novel by a favorite author of mine, Mark Danielewski, which is a horror novel that I'm a huge fan of. And I mentioned it briefly in passing, and the other two members of the group, who I guess we'll bring up here in a second, both just like, yo, wait, hold up, like that's great, let's do that.
Yeah.
No random word generator needed. You just knew it.
No, not in this case.
Yeah, they wouldn't have felt right.
No. So originally the idea was it was going to be a reference to Lovecraft in some way, but that kind of drifted out. I felt like a few too many bands were doing that these days.
Oh yeah.
And
old ones.
Yeah, and also Lovecraft was Jackass. So
yeah.
You know. So I guess it is, unless you've got something else, this is as good a time as any to introduce mention our two new band members. We can't introduce them because they're not here.
Drum roll, please.
So conveniently on drums, we've got Dylan Young, who is one of the other writers on the Subway with us, and he dabbles in the server from time to time. He lives down in Argentina, which is pretty cool. We're spreading outside of the United States for this one.
Nice.
But he's going to be doing real live proper drums for the album, which Moons did not have. So that's super exciting. And then on guitars and writing and programming and synth stuff, we have, Lord, hold on. I need to make sure I pronounce his name right. Bartek Damaski, who
nice.
The server folks might know is Sir Mr. Gray, something or other, whatever. That's his name. So they're both involved, and we're super hype about it because it's introducing other perspectives that like we didn't have just working the two of us, right? Especially like Bartek is coming in with a lot of pop sensibility that Steven and I don't have quite so much.
Yeah.
That isn't going to be bleeding into the composition so much for most of the songs, but it's definitely like introducing stuff from a production side of things and just like really adding more layers to the music, and that's really cool. I am very excited with what has come about from everyone, all four of us working together.
Yeah, and he's also going to do the mixing on the album, and I'm definitely not an expert in mixing, and he's definitely already been able to come in here and show us a bunch of stuff, so it's going great.
Wow, how did you guys kind of broach that subject? I mean, that is a pretty diverse array of people. And again, that's, you started Empire Bathtub as just two people as strangers on the internet, and now you have four strangers on the internet. Three of the four who kind of all write for the same progressive music blog online, but still, that's how did that come to be?
Oh man. Dylan was just because it came up that he played drums, like honest to God.
Yeah, we wanted to get a drummer, so we were like, we're like dead set on getting a drummer because we wanted to have live drums because it makes a huge difference, obviously. So
yeah, and I had spoken to him about it previously for one of the other projects that I mentioned that fell through, and so I just brought it up and I was like, hey, I know he leans more towards like the traditional prog and some black metal and that sort of thing, so it's not quite his scene, the style we were going for, but I was like, do you want to be a part of this? And he just jumped on board. He was super excited. And then Bartek, I'm trying to remember how he got involved.
Yeah, I think you said that he reached out to you to see if wanted to get involved with anything, for Empire Bathtub, and then we were like already working on this, and we were like, well, let's rope him in.
Yeah, that was pretty much it. I think he reached out about a guest solo. That was how it started. And yeah, so now they're both full band members. Names are going to be on the album. It's a big old different thing than Bathtub entirely, and it's very exciting.
Well, that is really exciting. What does this mean for Empire Bathtub, I guess? Like, it sounds like you guys are going to continue to collaborate, but sort of like have your two little separate worlds here as, kind of two separate things moving forward. Is that correct?
Yeah. I mean, both are still. I mean, well, House of Leaves isn't. We haven't released anything yet for it, but Empire Bathtub is still going to be. We're still going to release the sillier side of stuff on Empire Bathtub, and then House of Leaves is probably going to be more the serious side, kind of more like Jonah was saying earlier. It's gonna has a lot more serious subject matter, and it's a lot kind of more serious of a tone. So it's that's probably like the main difference, and then obviously the two new band members. So yeah, both are gonna be going forward as kind of like, I guess, two sides of the music that we want to make.
That is awesome. Now, what would you say between the two of you guys is maybe like your biggest takeaway from doing this together, or just personally for each of yourselves as musicians? Like, what are some of the things you've learned throughout all of this?
So for me, it's, you know, about probably like 3 months before we finished the album, there was like a month where like I was just hitting a roadblock because there were lots of like story pieces that we had to finish, and I was really struggling to kind of connect the pieces in the story. And funny enough, when we were starting on the other project we were working on, I was like, man, I don't know if we want to go for, a story based album, because, that was so hard to do. But then, just kept going at it and going at it and going at it and rewriting things and thinking about ideas on how to connect the parts of the story so it flowed well. And then kind of after I came over that roadblock, we were like, why don't we, Jonah and I were talking, we were like, why don't we, go with the story, the second one, because it kind of started as like, we're going to have like a general concept, but not a story. And then it kind of went to like, well, let's make it a little bit looser because it'll be like a concept with like each song has its story. And then now it's like a full-fledged story.
Fair.
Yeah, I think that as hard as we try, it's a little hard to drift away from the concept structure because we both like it so much. And it's funny because Steven took like 90% of the lead on the lyrics for Moons, and I would say that it's kind of flipped. I'm doing like 80-90% of what's going on the new album right now. And we both have managed to just unintentionally or intentionally fall into writing these drawn out story driven songs, and it was especially strange for me because my lyric writing process is generally I'll be sitting in front of my microphone listening to the songs he gives me, and I'll be improvising vocal melodies, and then I will just listen to the vocal melodies that I slapdash together, and I'll pick words that fit the sounds I'm making. And that's how I write lyrics. So I don't know how the hell I wrote a story.
I think that's the Devin Townsend method, though, I believe, where he'll just kind of like, and he'll just like hum something and then pick the syllables to fit, and it doesn't really necessarily matter what the words are, but he just kind of mad libs them together until they create something that kind of vaguely resembles the English language. So yeah, I always find that part interesting.
Yeah, I know there are people out there that kind of, write the opposite way, where they'll like start with lyrics and then kind of write the music to the lyrics. I just like, I don't know how you could do it that way. It seems so, my brain doesn't work that way.
That's why I haven't written any music, because I start with lyrics and I'm like, you idiot, you haven't written music. That's poetry you've just written. That's not music. It's not music until you write the music to your music. So
yeah, exactly. And like, especially because like I mentioned, I don't have any kind of compositional background. I have no idea what my vocals are going to sound like until I'm singing them. So because I can't write anything until I'm singing it, so all my melodies are improv on the spot while I'm working on it. And so because of that, like if I wrote lyrics, like I don't know how the hell I'm gonna fit them in the song. It wouldn't help at all.
I mean, I guess that really is kind of a more organic way of approaching it, because something I've learned in almost 50 episodes of this is like a lot of people tend to feel like you set yourself up for failure if you have too high of an expectation of what your stuff should sound like. It kind of sounds like it just seems like it's more natural when you just do the thing and then you find out what the thing is. Steven, is that kind of how you write on bass and guitar too?
Yeah, I mean, it's I definitely don't start with lyrics, but I have a general idea of what emotion I'm trying to capture from the song, or what part of the story I'm trying to tell, or what's going on in the concept that I'm writing the music for. And that kind of that's been like something that's really helped me a lot for my writing process personally, is I have like a general idea of what the music is trying to tell, and then I'll come back and make the lyrics, fit in with it when I'm writing lyrics. And then like Jonah was saying, he does the same thing, it sounds like.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I have a more philosophical question than for you both. What is the role of music in your life, and why is it important to you?
Oh, wow.
You can start this, Jonah.
Yeah, god damn. Okay. So for me, music is, I would say music serves a few purposes for me, but the main one is like a catharsis, so to speak, right? I go to music as a way to release emotion. I'm not the most like emotionally expressive person, I would say, generally. So both listening to and working on music, it's a really good way to just kind of get shit out there, right? But also it's a form of relaxation. And it's funny because I always got the weirdest looks when I was younger, because my relaxation music is shit like grindcore and like analnath rock and like really nasty heavy stuff. And I listen to doom when I'm like, just vibing. I don't really need to relax. That's just my chill music. But like if I want to relax, it's nasty, really shrieky heavy stuff. And so it's just a way to chill out, and I love music like in any real situation. There's always something that fits something, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's very much an emotional thing for me, based on mood, circumstance, etc. will really impact what I'm listening to. But I'm almost always listening to something. I try to listen to 2 to 3 albums a day that I've never heard before, which I've been told by some people sounds batshit insane.
I do the same thing usually.
Yeah, but it's just I love the exploration of music too. That's another big factor. I love the feeling of discovering something new. And that's what I do with Subway. I'm the designated finding albums person.
and then you do a really great job of passing them along to other people too, which, it's give and take, I think,
Yeah, for sure. I definitely try to, I there's a certain joy you get out of sharing music with a person and watching them connect with it, right? Mm-hmm. So in a place I used to work a couple years back, there was this lady that sat behind me who's really into like hip hop and rap and like that sort of thing, which is wonderful music, for the record. I've gotten into a lot more of it recently, and it's just a marvelous genre. It's so completely different from what I'm used to. But that's the majority of what she listened to, and like hints of rock and metal here and there. But I was like, hey, you know what? We're gonna throw shit at a wall and see what sticks. So I was like, you should go listen to analnath rock.
Oh my god, why would you do that?
Because it was fun. And I gave her The Whole of the Law, which in my opinion is their best album, and I was like, just try it. And she comes back the next day and she's just like, holy shit, this is the best thing I've ever heard.
Wow.
and they became like one of her favorite bands.
Oh my god, that's like...
and it's just that feeling. That feeling is wonderful. There's nothing quite like showing someone music, showing someone art, and just watching them connect to it that hard, right?
Yeah, thank you. You get it, because that's why I am an endless mouthpiece for music recommendations, because it's like, ooh, someone's gonna go, yes, thank you, this is the album I've been looking for forever. And that's at least how I engage with music. I just have to say, though, the fact that you turned your coworker onto an analnath rock is, or however you say it, is like the real life version of that scene from The Office where the guy's like moving into the cubicle next to the one lady, and he's like, well, hope you like Norwegian black metal. I don't have headphones. That's like me at work. Oh, that's a good success story, though. That's a great success story. Steven, what about you?
So, like I mentioned at the beginning, I, started playing bass when I was in middle school, but kind of before that, my grandma was a concert pianist, and so that's kind of like where it, I guess, started for me is, she was a concert pianist, and so was around music a lot. And then as I got older, started playing instruments myself and really liked it, and kind of went with that. And in terms of listening, kind of right there with y'all, like I love, having a band that I absolutely love and trying to share it with as many people as I can. And, I'd say probably around the time like I took a little, I guess I call it retirement from music and playing and stuff like that. I had a lot of trouble finding new bands I liked, and so I was like spinning through the same 5 to 10 bands for like the span of like 3 years. And so I think that got me like really burned out because I was like couldn't find anything new that I liked. And then about like maybe 5 or 6 years ago, like started really diving into, you know, a lot of the new progressive music and just opened up a whole new love again for music. And that kind of like is what got me back into like making music again and stuff like that. And so, I mean, I think the progressive metal and progressive rock genre and really like a lot of other genres as well are just like really, really strong right now. And there's a lot of good stuff coming out. So, I mean, there's so much good stuff out there that it's really exciting.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I had another question on the tip of my tongue, but I forgot it because I was looking at a different question, which was going to be, do you have any regrets? That's a total 180 from what I just asked you, but I mean, that's a really open-ended question, not like, do you have any regrets in your life? I don't mean that. I mean, just is there anything that maybe you I'll spin it this way. Is there anything you maybe want to accomplish with Empire Bathtub that you didn't get to with Looney Moons? And sort of what are your goals, I guess, for the future?
Yeah, I mean, one big regret musically is that like I had a ton of instruments and stuff, and when I like stopped playing, like I sold all of them. So then when I started writing Looney Moons again, I was trying to piece back together all the instruments and stuff that I had again. And so it was, it started out like the first kind of cut of recordings were recorded with like, the, Amazon basses and stuff like that, like just super cheap stuff. And then, kind of like as I was getting further along in the process, started like piecing more and more things together. And so, I mean, that was definitely a big regret is that I wish I didn't get rid of all my stuff. But like in terms of the album, I mean, I've released an album before that, after I released it, I was like, yeah, this is okay. Like, if I think this is okay, then it's not that good. But, I was really proud of Looney Moons, and I, for future Empire Bathtub stuff, just want to, take it to the next step. And there's a lot of stuff I've learned along the way of like, just recording at home and, music writing and song structure and concepts and storylines and everything like that, some of the songs that I wrote for Looney Moons when I was like first writing the album, I think that I could, if I was doing it again now, I could make some parts and songs and some songs better. And that's what I'd want to do going forward with Empire Bathtub.
Also, to your first point, am I hearing you correctly that there could have been like an oboe and xylophone duet on Looney Moons and you just had sold it?
Well, if I didn't ever play those, but I mean, I like a lot of the gear that I have now, like, I'm sure, you play drums and bass and everything like that. So like, how it is, like you start with one, then you move up a little bit more and a little bit more, a little bit more. And then, so like when you sell it, it's like you take like 5 steps backwards.
Yeah.
So.
What is that gear acquisition syndrome or whatever?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, exactly.
It's like, I just bought this $3,000 Schecter and it's not good enough. It's bullshit now.
Then like the next day you're looking at a guitar and you're like, what am I doing?
Depreciates the second you take it out of the box.
Yeah.
Jonah, what about you?
Oh man. I mean, I guess if we're still talking like things I would have done differently, like regrets, that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. The big one for me is not pursuing music younger, I would say. I didn't get into like music as a passion until I was midway through college. So probably, oh Lord, I'm going to sound like a fucking baby. Like 3 years ago. because I've been singing since I was like 11, 12, but that was all kind of just not even a hobby, like a perfunctory, like school thing.
Extracurricular.
It was an
singing.
extracurricular. Yeah. And I didn't really develop a love for performing and writing music until I was midway through college. So I was a double major in college, so I had no room for anything. So I didn't get the chance to take anything except one basic music theory class that I took during my senior year and blew off most of the year. So I learned what time signatures were, and that was pretty much it.
And that's when he got into prog.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's a jump.
Yeah. So I really wish that when I was younger I had taken theory classes and it even just like more choral classes and stuff like that, because Stephen can definitely confirm that while my cleans are getting better, I'm not the most confident clean vocalist. And it's definitely an area that I wish I had spent more time on when I was younger. So I'm kind of playing catch up there. So that's my big one, I guess.
Okay. Those are both really great answers. I don't think I've ever asked that question before, so that might be a new standard to shock my guests. Like, what are your life's regrets? But
what did you do wrong?
Yeah, why do you suck so much? Can you explain that? This is confessional, not a podcast. No, but I think, being able to acknowledge like, what you can improve on, and it's just part of being a creative person, I guess. So that being said, who would you guys say are your biggest influences? And I don't just mean musicians, but like if there's people in your life who've kind of impacted your journey towards musicianship or whatnot.
Oh man. I don't know, Steven, do you want to take this one first or do you want me to?
Sure, I'll take it. So funny enough, like me and Jonah's like, and if we're talking like our favorite bands, like there's not a lot of overlap
could not be more different.
Yeah. Like my two favorite bands are the Mercury Tree and Leprous, and like Jonah's not a huge fan of either one of those. I'm still not giving up that fight, but but yeah, I mean the Mercury Tree and Leprous are huge musical influences.
Is it time for Leprous album rankings? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah. I'm very opinionated about that.
Okay,
so is everybody else.
Continue.
No, and but yeah, and then so I think it still like makes its way in as like a musical influence a lot, even though I'm not listening to them nearly as much. But like when I was probably like 14 to like 19 or 18, maybe 20, my like band that I listened to like all the time, almost daily, was Silverchair. And
wow.
So like they're like a probably like still, like I said, not intentionally, but probably still unintentionally like making their way as like a big influence for like my personal writing and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean those are probably like the big two, and then I like a lot of other stuff, like I mentioned, like Cheetos Magazine and Trollhagen. And then I also like really like grunge. Like I don't listen to it as much now, but like that was like when I was going back to like saying I listened to like the same 5 or 10 bands for like 3 years, like it's pretty much all grunge bands, and then some like Tool and stuff like that. But funny enough, because that's the concept of Looney Moons right there.
Right. I'm waiting for the royalties from Maynard to come rolling in for that.
Yeah.
When he discovers you've written a prog album about a guy and a robot who go to another planet to like recover a Tool CD.
I can't tell you how much the feeling of my heart dropping, like the feeling that I had when I was going through the distributor and like uploading the album and everything like that, and it had a bunch of like check boxes you had to click, like you're not like posting someone else's music and stuff like that. And I told Jonah about this like after it happened. I was like, I nearly almost had a heart attack, I think, because like one of the check boxes you had to say is like you're not mentioning another. I thought it said you're not mentioning another artist in your album, and I was like, that can't be right. And then like,
But it's integral to the story.
no, it was like you're not like, basically it was saying like you're not, someone else wasn't featured on your song that you're like not including or something like that. But I was like, oh man, what do I do?
Oh God, that is scary. Holy hell.
I was like, oh man, well there goes the last like year and a half.
Sorry.
It's like the band camp only.
Yeah, donate if you want, or we'll get sued.
Yeah.
Oh man. Okay, then I guess we'll go over to mine. So first off, because I want to talk about my musical influences and everything, but I do want to say first that one of the biggest influences just on my journey into music is my wife. She's wonderful and very supportive of me, and I don't know if she's going to listen to this or not. But she is a constant push and motivation to pursue the stuff I'm passionate about. I don't think I would be anywhere close to as involved in music as I am now without her constantly being here, like, follow your dreams, blah. So I love her to death. She is wonderful. I definitely could not do this without her. So that's my big one right there, right?
Follow your dreams, blah.
And then musically, oh man, my like musical influence list is such a smorgasbord. Coheed and Cambria is my big one. They were like my first musical love, right? Which does not reflect in my vocals at all. Because I am not Claudio Sanchez and I do not try to be.
And your hair is not the size of your entire body.
Now that I've been stuck in the house for 3 months, I'm working on it though.
I'm getting there.
But I mean, other than that, I am the worst like prog fan because I don't like long songs that much. I don't like overly complex music that much. So like my big influences are like Woods of Ypres, Typo Negative, Depeche Mode. I really like Queen. And then I will have to kind of shamefully admit that a large portion of my musical influence comes from nu metal. So Slipknot, Korn, Disturbed. There was a very, very unfortunate Five Finger Death Punch phase. Yeah, which isn't nu metal, but it's bad. But I don't think my style would be what it is without some level of formative influence from them. So I can't go without mentioning it. But the bands that I really drew stylistically from, I would say, are like Typo Negative and Woods of Ypres, and then Ahab for my harshes. Ahab was a huge influence on my harshes.
Nothing like some good old Moby Dick doom metal.
Exactly.
Ahab. Nice. I have one last question then before I drop the hammer. But what's your opinion on guilty pleasures?
Oh, I love guilty pleasures.
I'm of the opinion that they don't really exist.
Okay.
I think that there is no reason to be to feel guilty for the art you consume unless it's like objectively harmful to human beings in some way or shape or form, right? But like if you know, like I still go and I'll listen to Limp Bizkit. I did the other day, right? And they're a trash band. Absolutely terrible. But like I actively enjoy some of their music, and I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh yeah, well I feel guilty for listening to Limp Bizkit, because I fucking don't. Like I like the music, even if I know objectively that it's not that good. And it's the same way with any other art form. I love, shitty B movies. I love like schlock old sci-fi films from like the 50s. And they're not good, but there's no guilt involved. It's just a thing I enjoy, right?
Good answer. Steven, you were like, I like guilty pleasures.
No, yeah. No, I do like guilty pleasures, but not being guilty about it. Like Jonah was saying, there's a lot of, listen to our album. We love the cheesy stuff. So,
Yeah.
you don't. I mean, I think it's something that kind of like, when you stop caring about like what someone might think of something that you like, it kind of goes out the window, and you just learn to like what you like. But there's a lot of guilty pleasures, so to speak, out there that I love. I mean, I have a lot of movies that are just terrible, and like I'll defend them and be like, this movie is actually good. It's not good, but it's good. You should appreciate it. But yeah, it's really enjoyable. But yeah, I mean, guilty pleasures. Don't be guilty about them. Just enjoy what you like.
Fair. Well, I know Steven will know what to expect soon because we're coming up on about an hour. But is there anything else you guys want to mention about Empire Bathtub or House of Leaves, I guess, before we start to wrap this up?
You want to start this off?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a ton, I don't think. I mean, we're 26 minutes into House of Leaves. We didn't really mention that, but we're already like halfway done with the damn album.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Which is pretty hype, and a absolute side effect of being quarantined.
Thanks, Corona.
Yeah, right. Yeah. But nah, I mean, like, I'm just, excited that you had us on here. This is awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't have met you guys, quote unquote, had I not stumbled into a Discord server some fateful August afternoon. So, all right, fine. I will drop the hammer then and leave you with my final question. So, if you could only listen to 3 albums for the rest of your life, what would they be and why? There's a lot of beard stroking going on right now.
Yeah.
Oh, Lord. Okay. So the 3 albums that I can listen to any mood, anytime, no matter what, are Woods 5 by Woods Vipra. That's actually the album I listened to right before I got married.
Wow.
Which is a terrible choice emotionally, but it was, it happened.
Hey, no guilty pleasures, right?
Exactly. No World for Tomorrow by Coheed and Cambria, which is everyone's least favorite Coheed album, it feels like, but it's my favorite, absolutely. And for my third one, damn, this is hard. Probably Living as Ghosts with Buildings as Teeth by Richelieu. That would be my third pick.
Yeah, that's a real variety there.
I'm glad that you took that one first, because now I have my 3.
Yeah, you're in the hot seat.
So it would be Permutations by the Mercury Tree, Bilateral by Leprous.
So that's the answer to what your favorite Leprous album is.
It's actually a tie, and I was like the whole time that was like the thing I was hung up on. I was like, which one of these 2 am I gonna go with? And then the third one would probably be. It's both a mix of I enjoy it that much and like it's kind of the crazy story behind it, but Negative Space by Artificial Silence. Those would be my 3.
Wow, that's oh man, I haven't thought about that band in a while. Okay, I have some stuff to revisit, but all right. Well, this still, we're like an hour into this and I'm still feeling like this is very surreal that I just interviewed you guys about your like fake music project that became not fake after being internet friends. Like, it's truly a really weird world that we live in, but I'm grateful to be living in it. So
yes.
Yeah, and not to forget Seasons, who mixed it, who's also from the server. And mixed and mastered it. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, honestly, Looney Moons sounds so professional. It sounds just like any other band that would walk into a studio and come up with stuff. So, well done on your guys' part. And the final mix sounded great. Everyone knows I have such a discerning ear, so it passed my test. It passed my test, and it was very enjoyable. So,
well, thank you.
Yeah. But no, guys, thank you for joining me. And I know as soon as I finish this call, I'll just hop in the server and say hi to you there, as if I didn't just talk to you for a whole hour. Hope you guys enjoyed my interview with Jonah and Steven from Empire Bathtub. And also, if anyone's listening and they feel like Steven's name is really familiar, that is because I mentioned these guys back in episode 35 when I had Evan Carson on, and he was the one who kind of helped set that up. So, again, round of applause. But seriously, their album Looney Moons is a delight to listen to. It's just wacky. It's like, I don't know, it's like Rick and Morty prog metal or something, but go ahead and listen to it. It's awesome. They're available on Bandcamp, Facebook, Instagram, all those places. Just search for Empire Bathtub. And make sure you stay tuned as well for their upcoming project, The House of Leaves. As always, thanks for listening.